Hello, my name is Casey. This is Real Life, Real Joy, and today I'm going to do a second part of my Saving Money on Groceries vlog that I did several weeks ago. And this is going to be more about individual meals that I make that are low cost. So we're going to start with breakfast and move on to lunch, dinner, snacks, and desserts. So first of all, breakfast is the cheapest meal of the day. The first thing is eggs. Eggs are very cheap. They're a protein source. We actually got some eggs just today at Pick and Save for 49 cents a dozen. Our family of 8 goes through a dozen and a half every time we have eggs. So that's really good. Less than $1 for protein. The second thing is oatmeal. I buy a large canister of old-fashioned oats, and usually we have a quick oats and an old-fashioned oats. So it cost me $1.89 at Woodman's to buy a large canister, which is the best price that I have found, and we just sweeten it usually with peanut butter and jelly. And another thing, occasionally we will buy the packets of oatmeal, but those little packets are not enough. I think my oldest son could eat 3 or 4 if he ate only the packets. So we mix a packet with like maybe about a half a cup of regular plain oatmeal to make it stretch a little further. The kids really can't tell a difference. They don't add any extra sweetener usually, unless they got a little too carried away with adding extra oatmeal, which happens occasionally. But that is a way to extend your oatmeal. And of course, when we do buy the packets, we buy the generic kind. Next, pancakes or waffles that are made from scratch. It's really only flour, milk, some eggs. It's pretty cheap. And then also with that, it could be biscuits. Biscuits are pretty cheap when you make them from scratch also, or if you can get a good deal on the canned stuff. Then as far as breakfast meats go, we found that a tube of sausage is always cheaper than a pound of bacon. Bacon, I don't know about your family, but everyone loves bacon in our family, and it gets eaten up super fast, and it's never enough. Everyone ends up with only 1 or 2 pieces, and you know, no one is ever satisfied. So we found that a tube of sausage goes a lot farther, especially if you cook the sausage first and then you put the eggs right in and you kind of mix it. So we have eggs and sausage all mixed together. So they'll eat that plain, or they'll also eat that mixture in a taco shell and have a burrito with cheese and sour cream, or salsa or ketchup. That I don't like, but some of my kids like ketchup. So we also do allow our kids to eat cereal for breakfast. I try not to go super duper sugary cereal, but it happens. So for cereals, we try to get cereal for $2 or less for a box. Sometimes you can find great deals for $1.50 a box. That's rare, but other times you can get boxes for $2 for the box, and we're okay with that cereal. So here is one budget-friendly meal. Kevin made awesome rhubarb pancakes and some scrambled eggs. And here's some homemade syrup, which I believe the syrup is 1 cup white sugar, 1 cup brown, and 1 cup of water. And then a little vanilla. And that's it. The last thing I wanted to say about breakfast is that if you want, well yeah, first of all, those cheap individual prepackaged frozen things that you can buy are pretty expensive. So if you want the convenience of those, I recommend making big batches ahead of time and throwing it in the freezer. You can do egg burritos, pancakes, and waffles and throw it in the freezer, even French toast. There's another vlogger that I really love. Her name is Jamerill, and her channel is Jamerill's Large Family Table, and she does a lot of freezer cooking. So if that's your thing, go check her out. I will put the link in the box, description box below. Okay, let's move on to lunch. Lunch is tricky because we do homeschool, and I want lunch to be quick and fast and easy. I don't want to take a lot of time. So the biggest thing that we do is leftovers, especially for myself. Leftover dinner. Whatever we had, we'll have that a lot of times. And then secondly, the next most common thing is sandwiches. The cheapest is probably peanut butter and jelly. We do can our own jelly, so that helps. So we have peanut butter and jelly. I also like to do egg salad occasionally. Again, eggs are fairly cheap, and all my kids actually really like egg salad. And sometimes we'll do tuna salad the same way. Tuna can be a cheap protein also. Also, in regards to fruit, we almost always have some kind of fruit for lunch. Sometimes it's our own pear sauce that we have canned or applesauce that we have canned. And other times it will be fresh fruit. If I don't think that my kids will eat like a whole apple, I'll actually cut an apple in slices and just distribute it out between all of them. So instead of having 5 apples for the 5 kids and then 2 of them end up wasting it because they're littler, I will just cut maybe 3 into slices and divvy it up among all the kids, and that is usually enough, and we can use less that way. I also do that with things like peaches and pears, because those fruits are usually a little bit more expensive, and so if I do buy those, I will ration it out a little bit more. And then we also have cottage cheese and yogurt as a side dish very frequently, and I buy that in the larger tubs instead of the individual yogurts. As far as convenience things, I do occasionally get corn dogs and chicken nuggets, but I try to look for sales, get them when they're on sale when I can. But sometimes with homeschooling, I just need something quick and easy, and it's easy for me to throw some corn dogs in the microwave and give them some yogurt and some apple slices. It's just a super quick lunch. And then one of our favorite lunches that isn't always quick, but is making pizza on tortilla shells. I'll use the tortillas as the crust, and then just throw some sauce and some cheese and pepperonis. I keep pepperoni in the freezer, so we always have pepperoni available. They thaw out super fast to just throw on top of pizza. But my kids like to eat a lot of it, so it's not always the cheapest option. But if you have light eaters, you know, then maybe throwing 1 or 2 little tortilla pizzas, making them for them will actually be cheaper for you. But they are, however, cheaper than buying frozen pizza or going out for pizza. Alright, we made tortilla pizza. It's one of our favorite things. It's a hot day. I don't know why I chose to make something with an oven, but I did. Alright, let's move on to dinners, the big one. So I tried to make a list here of dinners that we make that are on the frugal side. My favorite dinner is tacos. I love tacos. I will buy tortillas on sale at Woodman's. There's almost always some brand of tortillas on sale. It's usually the La Banderita ones. Not sure if I'm getting that right. But there'll be the huge burrito ones on sale, maybe for $1.50, or sometimes they'll have like the medium-sized ones on sale for $1, or they'll have smaller ones on sale for $1. Whatever size, whatever brand is on sale, that's the one that we buy. So another cheap meal is spaghetti. Anything with noodles, rice, potatoes is going to be on the cheaper side. But the joke is always rice and beans, beans and rice, right? If you're trying to be frugal. But my family does not like rice and beans. We will occasionally eat rice, and we will occasionally eat beans, but it is by far not a common occurrence. Most of the kids hate it, and Kevin and I will have something like that occasionally, so we are not a rice and beans, beans and rice kind of family. Alright, another of our favorites is shepherd's pie. That's any kind of ground meat, or you can even do leftover chicken or rotisserie chicken, any kind of meat and a gravy, and then any kind of vegetables you have. If it's the middle of winter, we don't have a garden, I'll throw a bag of the mixed vegetables, frozen mixed vegetables in, but you could throw a couple cans of vegetables if that's what you have. If you have a garden and you have a surplus, I know one year we had so much zucchini and summer squash that I was making everything with zucchini and summer squash. So I just put zucchini and summer squash in a shepherd's pie. And then because it's a shepherd's pie, you put mashed potatoes on the top and throw a little bit of cheese. This is a really good meal to have after you've had something like mashed potatoes and gravy. So I will make that as just a meal, mashed potatoes with gravy, and then I'll put just a little bit of meat in the gravy to kind of spread that more, and then we'll usually have a vegetable on the side. But I will make twice as many mashed potatoes that I need for that first dinner, so that a couple days later I can make a shepherd's pie and the mashed potatoes are already done and it's a little bit easier. So next is any kind of soup. Soup is always cheaper. You can always throw in leftovers, you know, any leftover bits of meat, any vegetables that you might have around. Unfortunately, my family does not like soup. I love it, and I could eat soup a lot, especially in the winter, but my family doesn't, so there's only a few soups that we really like, and they're pretty much all the creamy variety, but they're still cheaper, on the cheaper side than some other ones. Here is another cheap, simple meal. This is chicken in the crock pot. It's called Cajun cream chicken. It's in the Trim Healthy Mama cookbook. I think it's the very first recipe in the first cookbook. It's literally chicken breasts, cream cheese, and Cajun seasoning. Here's the Cajun seasoning that I get, just the generic Cajun spice seasoning. And that is it. I'm gonna make noodles for my family, and I'm gonna make zucchini noodles for myself, and it's gonna be awesome. Oh, breakfast for dinner. We already talked about breakfast foods, how they are cheap. So breakfast foods for dinner is just as cheap. Alright, then another potato meal is just baked potatoes. We have found that if we cook them in the oven, my kids love them. I used to just stab them and throw them in the microwave, but they are not the same as if they're cooked in the oven. So we really like them cooked in the oven. It takes about an hour, but then we top them with sour cream, cheese. I like a little bit of butter and no sour cream. And then any kind of vegetables. We just had this meal a few days ago, and we used Swiss chard from our garden and a little bit of bacon on top, which was wonderful, but some of the kids didn't like that. But any vegetable you have, you can throw baked beans on top, you can throw chili on top, you can throw taco meat and have a taco potato, really anything. This way you can use up your leftovers, because if you remember from my first video, don't waste food. It's in the Bible. Look at my first video. Alright, next up is fried rice. You can use only a little bit of meat and a couple of eggs, and then whatever vegetables you have on hand again. And then you can do Chinese noodles the same way. It's basically the same as Chinese rice, or fried rice, except I don't use the eggs, but I use usually chicken and vegetables. And then soy sauce and garlic and ginger. You can look online for recipes. And then any casseroles. One trick that I have found for casseroles is to chop the meat up really small. If you're using ground meat, that's already done for you. You can use less and it'll spread throughout. But if you're using something like chicken breasts, let's say you only have 2 chicken breasts, if you just chop it up in smaller pieces, then it goes throughout the whole casserole and you don't have to use as much and no one feels like they're being deprived. My last tip is to go heavy on the vegetables in summer when you can get cheap produce. Or if you have a garden like we do, you can have all that produce for free. So go heavy on the vegetables in the summer. Here's our finished macaroni and cheese. I put 3 hot dogs in this big pot, and then this is mine. I have some kale and some tomato slices, or 1 tomato slice chopped up. So that's mine. This is everybody else's. And that is our macaroni and cheese for lunch today. I should add, sometimes I will throw this in a 9x13 pan and bake it in the oven. And sometimes instead of hot dogs, I will add some canned chicken and broccoli, and that will be dinner. So just a quick, easy meal. Right, Daniel? Is macaroni and cheese yummy?
No.
No? Oh. Now let's move on to a fun category, desserts. We found that cake mix and brownie mix are always pretty cheap. You can almost always get a cake mix or a brownie mix for $1 or even sometimes less. So when they're less than $1, we'll stock up and get several and just have them on hand in the pantry for whenever someone wants to make a dessert or whenever we have birthdays coming. Again, for cake mix and brownies, you only have to add a little bit of water and a couple of eggs and probably a little bit of oil, and that's usually enough. And I also like to use in-season fruit, like apples in the fall, and make things like apple crisp. The crisp is just some sugar and oatmeal, which again is fairly cheap. You just have to basically pay for the butter. The butter is a little bit more expensive. We found that pudding is a fairly cheap dessert for us. And then lastly, my last tip is to buy ice cream in bigger tubs instead of buying the individual packaged ice cream bars, or even going out to eat for ice cream or going out to an ice cream shop. It's better to just buy the tub. Although my husband and I kind of disagree on this. He likes to only buy it at the store and come home, but every once in a while I like the experience of going out to get ice cream. So, you know, but if you can't afford it, then you can't afford it. Buy it at home. Have it at home. Here's our strawberry rhubarb crisp, and we're gonna put some Ready Whip on it and have dessert. Next category is snacks. The first thing I do to save money on snacks is try to limit them to only 1 time a day, usually in the afternoon. Now sometimes in the morning they can be getting crabby because it's not time for lunch, and I will throw a graham cracker or 2 at them. So occasionally they'll have a little bit in the morning, but I try to just keep snack time to one time in the afternoon. And then, yeah, that's it. So here's our list of snacks that are usually my go-to. Again, we homeschool, so I want snacks to be quick and not messy. So I don't do bowls and spoons and all that kind of stuff. I just want it to be quick. It's usually something dry so they can eat it while they're listening to me read or do lessons or whatever when it's school time. So first up is crackers with peanut butter or cheese on them. Then popcorn with butter. We have an air popper, so that's really cheap. Any kind of dry cereal in a bowl. Raisins, which I buy in the larger bags or larger tubs instead of the individual things. Smoothies or slushies if it's hot out and I have time and we have fruit or bananas in the freezer. So as an aside, I will freeze bananas. I'll peel them and freeze them and put them in big Ziploc bags so that I can use them for smoothies, which works well. And they will have apples, sometimes apples and peanut butter. Pretzels, occasionally we'll get crazy and I'll make some kind of muffin or scones, or Rebecca or Caleb will if we have time and I don't mind. Then string cheese sometimes, and also candy from our stash of candy that's left over from parades or from events at church or things like that. So I do not buy any of those individually wrapped snack packages. We don't buy individually wrapped chips or crackers or fruit snacks or anything like that. That's all much more expensive, and so we buy bigger bags and we split them up. Oh, we also do animal crackers sometimes. So I buy larger bags and we just give out handfuls, or I'll grab a little bowl and give them a handful in a bowl. And I actually recently watched a video by another vlogger named Jordan Page, and her philosophy was if it's not wrapped, or if it is wrapped, you are not allowed to eat it at home. So she has school kids that take lunches to school, so they are allowed to take those snacks and things to school for their school lunch, but they can't eat it at home. So I thought that was a really good idea, and I will link that below. That is my list of cheap meals and snacks and desserts. If you have any that I missed for dinners or lunches or anything else that I missed, I would love for you to comment below. I would love for you to like and subscribe to these videos also, and I will link below the first part of my saving money on groceries video. And that's all for today. Have a lovely day.